Welcome to Expanding Care Outside Your Practice Walls with Telehealth Services. We will begin in just a minute, so hold on and we'll get started. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We're excited that you're here. Again, we're going to be talking about expanding care outside your practice walls with telehealth services. My name is Rebecca Shade, and very excited to have you here with us. This is an exciting topic as we've seen it really grow through COVID and continue very strong. Today, Claire Hubernaven is with us. She is awesome. You're really going to enjoy her today. She has over 35 years of experience as a pediatric nurse practitioner in primary care, and she is very passionate about helping practices optimize their use of their EHR. She is a RemedyConnect Senior Client Success Manager, and I am going to hand it over to Claire. And again, always post your questions in the webinar for us. We'll be answering those at the end, but Claire, please take it over.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, and welcome everyone to today's Lunch and Learn session. I am very excited to present Remedy Telehealth to you, not only as a video conferencing platform, but really as a virtual care platform, a little bit kind of a different dynamic here. Today we'll be going over how you can increase your revenue opportunities using telehealth outside of normal business hours, show you our platform as well as how easy it is to connect and use video conferencing services for groups large and small, and then again walk you through some of the basic mechanics of how to schedule appointments and connect to those visits and things like that. Please feel free to ask questions. Happy to answer those as we go here, and let's get started. So telehealth really took off during COVID. As we learned to deal with the pandemic, and then of course as the pandemic itself wound down, telehealth has really shown its staying power. Right now, we're seeing a trend, at least for about the last 6 months, that telehealth visits have stayed pretty consistent at about 10% of the pediatric post-pandemic visits. The ones using telehealth services most commonly are the age group that your parents are in. They really have seemed to adapt it to the technology, really love the ability to connect with providers and not have to interrupt work schedules or pick up kids early from daycare or try to manage multiple kids while coming in for an office visit. Behavioral health, of course, leads the way. Behavioral health currently is doing about 50% of their visits on a national basis using a telehealth platform. And the implication for pediatrics really there, and especially with the surge in mental health issues for our kids, is for practices to be able to use behavioral health as part of their service offerings and support that through our telehealth platform. it does get complicated. Unfortunately, telehealth regulation occurs both on a state as well as a federal level. Medicaid, almost every state has some policy around Medicaid and programs there. Private payer laws exist. Now, some of these laws do allow for parity of payment on telehealth services compared with in-office visits, but each state is a little bit different. And then, of course, there's the licensing requirements. Prior to the pandemic, providers were licensed on a state-by-state basis, with very few having crossover licensing functionality. That has changed with the pandemic, but still, you have to be aware of where the patient is located when conducting a telehealth visit. The resource in my slide deck here, the Center for Connected Health Policy, is a publicly funded private partnership that provides up-to-date information on a whole variety of telehealth topics, legislation, regulations. So if you're curious as to what the status is for your particular state, I would encourage you to use that resource. Remedy Telehealth was developed in conjunction with our answering service functionality, which Rebecca presented on last week. We use a proprietary software platform that allows us to really deliver a unique set of services and deliver messages to the right person at the right time on the right device and in the right manner. The telehealth is seen as an extension of those answering service features so that the on-call provider can really connect with the clients after hours, do their documentation, and get information back to the office, allowing some of those after hours calls to be billed. What we found is that telehealth isn't just for after hours either. There's a lot of applications for use during office hours, and our platform really offers an intuitive, secure, and affordable solution for practices looking at telehealth services. Our scheduling a visit occurs within the Remedy On-Call platform. We'll walk through that process here in just a little bit. The connection for our providers is through a secure desktop login or mobile app functionality. Parents do not have to have an app or a special username password login. They join the visit through a secure link that is sent to their either email or their cell phone via text messaging. We have the ability, like I mentioned, to document progress notes, including the CPT and ICD-10 codes that are needed for completing that billing process. And we also work with a merchant services provider called Payment Pros in order to allow credit card payments to occur seamlessly through our system as well. This slide shows you how our integration within that Remedy On-Call platform allows you with a single click to go ahead and get a televisit scheduled as a provider. The screenshots that I'm using during the presentation are from the mobile platform. When Rebecca and I do our demo here in just a little bit, we'll switch over to that desktop version, so you'll get a chance to see both. We have a polling question for you now. Have you looked at your current telehealth solution to see if there are hurdles for your parents or patients to join a visit? We'll give just another couple of minutes here for people to finish the survey. Actually, looks like we have pretty good response. And I'm going to go ahead and close the survey and come back. So connecting, like I mentioned, on Remedy Telehealth platform, the patient example is displayed here. And this is an example of the text message that the parents receive and the link that they use for joining that visit. As you can see, that text message also contains the practice name, the date and time of the appointment. When that visit is initially scheduled, a text message goes out to the parent immediately, or the patient, depending on whose phone number it's sent to. But the message goes out immediately, letting them know about the appointment, date and time. 10 minutes before the visit, a second message is sent with the active visit link enabled for the patient. On the provider side of the platform, the televisit is listed on their schedule within the Remedy On Call. They can start the visit from here. They can also reschedule the visit or cancel it as appropriate. Patients sign in using a customizable form that the practice can build out to suit their own needs. This is one example of some of the fields that are available to choose from. We also have things like medications, allergies, reason for visits, so that depending again on your use and the specific scenario for your practice, you can gather more or less information from your patient prior to the start of the visit. There is the ability to upload forms or screenshots. We also have the ability to send a PHQ-9 survey as part of that televisit. The PHQ-9 is actually sent as a separate link and can be sent to a number different than the number for the telehealth visit in case you have a parent or parent-patient and you want just the patient to receive that PHQ-9 link. We also have the ability to collect insurance information and then, of course, make the payment. Our documentation process is pretty seamless. Once the provider opens the progress note, the parent or the patient goes on a temporary hold, which turns the camera off and also mutes the provider microphone. This gives the provider the opportunity to complete their progress note without the interference from the parent or the patient. Using our mobile app, we do also offer a dictation feature so that if providers, they don't have to use the little keyboard on their mobile device in order to be able to enter progress note information. The dictation function is actually supported by Google Medical speech-to-text dictation, and it's pretty amazing at its ability to spell. Our payment screens and our insurance screens are very straightforward and easy for the parent or patient to complete. We have the ability to collect either Medicaid or self-payment features as well. Time for polling question number 2. Do you use telehealth as an alternative to in-person visits during your normal business hours? Getting some great feedback here. Thank you so much. We'll give another few seconds here for people to complete the poll. Thank you. And now it's time for us to jump into our demo. I am going to switch over my screen and show you now the Remedy On Call platform set up to display the telehealth dashboard from in our platform. Again, this is the desktop version. Rebecca, can you confirm that you're seeing the platform for me?
Yes. Well, on my side, I am logged in. I am just in the waiting room.
Okay.
And then what you're showing is the desktop dashboard. Yes.
Thank you so much. Scheduling the televisit can be done either through a now or later functionality. Using the Now tab is much like using other telehealth platforms, where once that phone number is entered and an appointment length is put in place, it's 3 clicks and the televisit invite has been sent out. Our Later tab has just a little bit more information that's requested, but also is where those screening forms can be sent from, and allows your practice to build a daytime schedule so that if you know a provider has a few televisits lined up for tomorrow, the staff can go in, put those in the Remedy On Call system, and that schedule and templates stay in place for the provider for the next day. We have queued up here a telehealth visit with Rebecca, and you can see she has started to enter in some information for me here, including a pharmacy phone number. The screening form that was sent out, the PHQ-9, is available for the provider to view, clicking that little box, and it will take them to the PHQ-9 questionnaire where they can preview the results and go back into the visit. The visit URL is always available to the staff through the dashboard, and that can be copied onto a clipboard, your computer clipboard, and pasted into an email to send to contacts if they prefer to be contacted by email and not through a mobile number. Once the provider starts the visit and enters into kind of a provider waiting area, they will be able to track the patient progress in terms of filling out that PHQ-9, or I'm sorry, the patient registration information. They can preview any photos that were uploaded as part of that and review the insurance information and insurance card photos that typically would be presented down here. Going back to the telehealth dashboard for just a second before I connect the visit, I do want to review some of the other fields that are available. We keep track of the days of week, time of day, and days of week that the provider is doing televisits. This can really help with tracking purposes within a practice. If notes are completed within our system, we can also track those ICD-10 and CPT codes. More importantly, and especially for larger practices, we keep a televisit history available here at the bottom, where the provider can see either their televisit history or across an entire practice. So if they're on call over the weekend and another provider did a visit the day before, they can jump in, review that information, including progress notes, and be able to answer any questions that come up during their visit. We're going to go ahead and start the televisit and get connected with Rebecca in the waiting room. Because I'm using my camera for the GoToMeeting and I forgot to turn it off, let me back up here just a second and make that adjustment. My apologies here. All right, I think I have that set up now. And now we'll connect to that telehealth visit. You can see now Rebecca has joined in the waiting room and she's ready for the visit to start. At this time, as a provider, I would also get a text message letting me know that my patient is ready to start the visit. If the provider gets into the visit before the patient has joined, the patient will receive a text message letting them know that their provider has started the visit for them already. Once the visit has connected, then the patient will be in the center of the screen with the provider view available in the upper right-hand corner. Each participant will have a strength signal available to indicate the bandwidth available for the video conference call. Bandwidth is very important when doing video conferencing, no matter what platform you're using. And bandwidth, especially on a cell device, can sometimes get into red or yellow ranges if they have too many apps opened up in the background, for example. One of the features of our platform is the ability to text a medical article link to the participant. Each practice comes with 10 links available for them to customize. And these can direct your parents back to your website to articles, information, just whatever the practice would like to use that for. There's Rebecca. Welcome to the visit.
I had to re-log in. Sorry, I let it sit too long.
No worries. The provider is the only one available to be able to add an additional person to a telehealth call. Up to 4 people can participate on our platform with our baseline telehealth package. Chat messaging functionality is available to use once, as soon as the parent opens that link that starts the registration process, then the chat functionality becomes available to use. Camera and microphone controls are available here. And then, like I said, what really sets us apart is the ability for the provider to do their progress note documentation from within our platform. Again, they have the ability to review all the patient information that was gathered. They can use the app entry and on the desktop type the information in, or if they use the EHR entry tab, again, what this is doing is putting the patient on a pause while they complete the documentation process. We also have a special patient instructions section. Patient instructions allows the provider to type in or copy and paste some very specific instructions to patients. If those instructions, he wants to keep them confidential, the patient instructions section will send, once he finalizes the note, that to the patient as a secure link that requires a passcode to get into it. And then the patient does have the ability to delete that once they've reviewed the information. I'm going to return back to Rebecca now, and I'm going to go ahead and end our telehealth call. And then we come to the final page for the provider. At this point, the provider can send medical article links, complete those patient instructions. The note is available for them to review or edit for up to 24 hours after the visit. And then they can fax, once they have completed the note, they have the ability to fax that information into the office. At this point, the office would receive a billing report to the billing fax, and then a separate progress note report to the medical records fax. Returning back to the dashboard, you can see now the status of this call has been marked continue, or would be marked completed if the provider had in fact marked that completed at the end of the call. The patient registration example is here. Take you just a minute to show you the drop downs available in terms of the patient filling out Medicaid or self-pay information, and then also our payment fields. Our Remedy Telehealth has added group room functionality in support of the behavioral health groups that use our platform. The group rooms will allow anywhere between 5 and 50 participants in a group session. And with our group room functionality, the provider does have camera and microphone control for all participants on the call. And that concludes what I have in terms of a demonstration. We can go now to some questions and answers.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Claire. We appreciate your knowledge and how much you have to share. That was fantastic. I always learn something new when I listen to you do a demo of our services, so thank you. Some questions that have come in. The first one was actually about last week. Someone wasn't able to attend the webinar on the 24/7 answering service. Can I get the video? Absolutely. On the page you're seeing right now, there is a link to the Lunch and Learn, and each of the videos from the past 4 sessions will be listed there. So click on one of those. If you want additional information, you can feel free to email me, Rebecca@RemedyConnect.com. It's the common spelling of Rebecca. The next question, so this is for you, Claire. Are there any payers who won't pay for a telehealth visit?
There are always payers who won't pay for things, but majority of payers are paying for telehealth visits at this point. The rate at which they pay for visits varies quite a bit. Some states, again, have those parity laws in place, which help to protect the reimbursement for the practice to make it equal to in-office visits. But you will want to reference the slide from Connected Health and view information specific for your state.
Great. Here's another one that just came in. How do I use RemedyConnect during the day at the office while using Office Practicum?
Great question. Office Practicum would typically be on the desktop or laptop for the provider. If that device comes with camera and microphone, then typically what providers will do is use kind of a 2-tabbed approach. One with their Office Practicum, and then a separate browser window to support the video conferencing. And you can use a split screen or dual monitors to support that as well. Other providers will pull the Office Practicum up on their device and then use a cell phone just propped right next to them to run the video conferencing service through that.
That's great. And I know I've talked to a lot of providers that love it as a daytime visit, especially for med rechecks. There's lots of great ways to help those parents not have to miss work and come in for a short visit. And so it's really a service for those parents and patients to allow that telehealth, at least from what I've heard from a lot of clinicians.
And one thing too is that,
one.
Sorry, but I just wanted to say that, yes, we are planning integration with OP, and that we will be moving that scheduling functionality over so that it's a single sign-on and entry into OP to maintain the schedule there. So look for that as we move forward in our development process.
Wonderful. Here's another one. How does a parent, I believe they're asking, just start or initiate that telehealth visit? I know you went over it, but just quickly, can you speak to that?
Absolutely. The parent from the text message will click on the link that's available there, and that link will take them to their registration form. Once they're in the registration form, as they complete fields there, they use the next button to move to the following screen. And once they have signed the consent for telehealth, then they move into the provider waiting room. Once they enter into that provider waiting room, the provider receives a message both through the mobile app as well as a text message letting them know that their patient is ready. And at that point, I forgot to mention, but if you have staff who's working with the provider, the staff can also join at that point, get some preliminary information, or let the parent know if their provider is running a few minutes late, and then leave the call and not disconnect the parent from that call for the provider to join when they're ready.
Perfect. Another one, there's just good questions coming in. We have a few more. Is there a provider waiting room time limit? And also answer this, do providers get individual waiting rooms that they can do their own message?
Awesome question. There is not a limit in terms of the provider being in a waiting room. They can wait there indefinitely. The waiting rooms for providers are specific to that provider. And so within our platform, they do have the ability on that dashboard to use this waiting room icon here and provide a very specific message for that provider. For example, if they want the parents to have a flashlight available, or don't do this televisit while you're driving the car, they can provide that messaging to them there.
That's fantastic. Here's one on how we charge. So for RemedyConnect, how are we billing the actual practice for these visits?
I'm not sure I understand that question.
Do we bill by visit or by number of minutes? How is the billing set up that we're charging the practice?
Wonderful.
If we set up telehealth for them.
Yeah, and we do have a variety of price structures available for practices to participate in. For practices who just have a very occasional telehealth usage, they can enroll for as little as $12 a provider a month, and then they pay per minute for video conferencing time above that. We also have our enterprise pricing level, where they have a flat fee for per provider per month, and then the provider has the ability, they're not billed any additional fees for video conferencing minutes.
Perfect. Another one just came in. Lots of questions. I love it. So if I have an after hours call, I think this is a provider maybe asking from that perspective, do I initiate the text or the patient through a portal?
So if you received a message from our answering service, then you can use our app to just initiate that televisit. If you are on call and want to schedule a televisit for yourself, you simply log into our platform and use the schedule functionality within the platform to set that visit up. We do provide staff logins, as I've mentioned. Staff can schedule for any provider in the practice, but providers can only schedule for themselves.
Fantastic. Thank you for all of these great answers you've given us and for taking us through the platform. I just want to mention providers are, especially pediatricians, are famous for giving away free advice all the time and after hours. And this is a way to gain back some billable encounters as well after hours, and to really help those families that have quick questions that are relevant, but now they don't have to go to an urgent care or somewhere else. After hours, they can actually talk to their primary care physician. So it's a pretty awesome way to meet the needs of your families. If you have more questions, please reach out. There is also a survey at the end of this. We really appreciate your feedback. It helps us know how to best meet your needs when we're doing these webinars. If a question was not answered, I know there were some additional ones that were sent. We'll reach out with those answers as well. I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and thank you, Claire.
Welcome. Thank you, everyone, for attending.